turn it off by accident? No, it's on. All right. And Julie mentioned membership, and I'd just like to reiterate that. I had a nice message from Linda Vitale, who is in charge of the membership committee, volunteering for ALA. And she reminded me it's only $25. And if you each get somebody to join, if you're already a member, it just gives more funding to do more, to help in the cause a little bit more. So just consider that when you are working out your donations for the year. And I'm sure there's information right outside if you want to get that today. So our next speaker, Seth Jensen. And Seth is the Director of Municipal Utilities for the City of Auburn, New York. He is a 2005 graduate of SUNY ESF, holding his Bachelor of Science in Environmental Resource Engineering, and is a professional licensed engineer in New York State. Seth enjoys spending time with his family, and as I know from being a Facebook friend, I see you're always enjoying your family, and volunteers as a Scoutmaster for BSA, Auburn Troop 11, and is active in multiple other volunteer groups surrounding his two sons' sporting and extracurricular activities. Seth is an active member of the New York American Water Works Association, AWWA, Water Environment Federation, WEF. Pretty soon you're not the Wrestling Federation either, right? That's the WWA. And the New York Water and Environment Association, the NYWEA. Seth today will describe how his city department contributes to provide safe drinking water despite worsening harmful algae bloom outbreaks. This is Seth Jensen.
It's right up here. Good morning, everybody. Certainly appreciate the opportunity here today to provide an overview on the City of Auburn's water treatment plant facility. I guess I didn't realize that the selfie I took when I was asked to provide a photo for this presentation was going to make it up on the screen here live, but it happened. So I've got to deal with that. So today, I'm certainly pleased to be here. This is my third presentation at this great event in the last 8 years. I've been the Director of Municipal Utilities now for the last 8 years with the City of Auburn, and have worked for the city for the last 15. So I'm halfway through my career as a municipal government worker, hopefully. All right, so let's get started. The reason we're here today is Owasco Lake Watershed, and where do we get our drinking water from? Well, of course, it's Owasco Lake and the watershed that provides water to that reservoir. In general, I don't know if everybody realizes this, but Owasco Lake is generally a great source of raw water for our residents. We have good limestone bedrock to provide good pH to our drinking water. In general, our turbidity is excellent. In fact, so good, our neighbor lakes, our Finger Lakes, are generally all good with respect to turbidity. And Skinny Atlas Lake is able to, the city of Syracuse is able to draw water directly from Skinny Atlas Lake with no treatment other than disinfection. It is important to know, however, although our raw water quality is very good generally, and we'll get more to that in subsequent slides, but what you do, what we do in our watershed or in any watershed does have a direct impact on water quality, and we heard a little bit about that earlier. In addition to turbidity and pH, our taste and odor is generally quite good, although seasonally in the past we have had issues with taste and odor around late season activity within the lake, and that's generally like algae and other things give off kind of some flavor issues. But our powder activated carbon system that we installed 6 years ago has done an excellent job. And in fact, we get very few taste and odor complaints from our residents. I think with the exception, one that I notice as well is chlorine that we add as a necessary disinfectant to the drinking water can have some of, you can kind of smell that sometimes, especially if the water is warmer as you're drinking it. So how do we in Auburn treat our water? Do we have 1,500 of the guys here in the middle of this screen pumping away 24/7 through their filter, filling up their drinking water bottle? It's somewhat a similar process, but not quite that simple. So the picture here in front of us is a picture of the northern section of Owasco Lake. We have an intake crib located about 1,700 feet off the pier at Emerson Park. Ginny Kent just posted some pictures yesterday, which were pretty interesting. You could see how clear the water was, and you can, in fact, in those pictures, see, if you go out on the pier, you can see the intake pipe running along the edge of the pier. So we have an intake crib in that location, about 30 feet deep in the water, and that's really where our first treatment process begins. That's where we add low doses of hypochlorite or chlorine right now for pre-disinfectant of the drinking water, and also that acts as a way to keep zebra mussels from forming on that crib and potentially clogging our intake. We'll talk a little bit more about that with future slides. On average, we're drawing 25 million gallons of raw water out of the lake each day through low lift pumps at our upper pumping station. That's where our second treatment process can be turned on and utilized, and that's our powder activated carbon system. The powder activated carbon system is utilized in late summer, fall months as a way to absorb the soluble microcystin that may be within the water column for treatment. And it also does an excellent job at removing other things that can cause taste and odor complaints. From there, the water flows along the Owasco outlet to our water treatment plant, which is located in the upper left-hand corner here of the screen near Swift and Pulsifer Drive. Once the raw water crosses across the Owasco River right next to State Dam, it comes into contact with an operator who is on staff 24/7, 365. The city staffs this facility. And it really has two options. It can one, go to our slow sand filtration plant, which is over to the right of that screen. That's the original water treatment plant constructed just over 100 years ago now. That facility has a rated capacity of around 7 million gallons per day, and we continue to use that. And it does a very good job in providing filtration of our drinking water. The other option is to continue that water's path to a more conventional modern facility, which is the flow path goes down the page over to the left to flocculation sedimentation tanks where some potential turbidity or other things within the column of water. We add a coagulant, which bonds all of those materials together until they get to a certain density where they fall out to the bottom of the tank and provides initial treatment at that location before going to our rapid sand filtration plant process where we're backwashing water on about a 3-day cycle before reconverging back in the slow sand plant where we do a final dosing of hypochlorite for disinfection, at which point it flows through our finished water reservoir for final contact time, to our pumping station and out to the residents in our community. So who uses our water? The City of Auburn is every resident and industry or commercial business within the municipal boundaries of the City of Auburn uses our water. And then in culmination, we have about 45,000 area-wide residents. The map here shows our full distribution system. All the lines in red are City of Auburn based customers. And just to the south, the town of Owasco also has a water treatment plant utilizing water from Owasco Lake. And they serve the town of Owasco as well as some residents within the town of Fleming. The city is certainly proud to be the purveyor of water and the supplier of water to our residents and to the community. We've done this now for well over 100 years to everybody within the city, and then also a lot of customers just outside of the city. So what do we test for? Earlier I was talking about the City of Auburn being very, and the community being very lucky to a certain extent to have such a good source of raw water. And in fact, I think that it somewhat shows by the 100+ contaminants that we're testing for in our raw water each year. The list is off to the right. There's no way you can read that, but I just wanted to illustrate that it's a long list of contaminants. You can see that more clearly on our annual water quality report, and I urge all of you to check that out at some point. But for all of the contaminants that we're testing for on an annual basis, in general, we are well below any of the source water limits set out by New York State Department of Health. So we are very, very lucky and very fortunate to have in our area such a great quality of water to use for drinking and for our residents. In addition to the source water testing, we own and operate our own ELAP certified lab at the water filtration plant. And between our operators and our lab director, we're running over 1,000 tests each year on our distribution system to ensure that water is safe for the public to drink. Over the last 8 years, we've had very, very few issues with any of those test results. Late 2022, we did have one reportable action, which was an exceedance in our rolling average of disinfection byproducts at one site that we test out of the 4 different sites that we test within the City of Auburn on an annual basis. By the next quarter of sampling, despite having to reach out and notify all of our customers and then put forth a plan to make adjustments to bring that back below the action level, we were able to get that below the action level. And I'll talk a little bit about what disinfection byproducts and how they're formed on this slide, I guess. The disinfectant that the City of Auburn uses both at our upper pump station and then for final finishing at the treatment plant is sodium hypochlorite, and that sodium hypochlorite has free chlorine within it. It's a necessary evil. It's something that we need to do to disinfect, to kill bacteria so people stay safe and healthy. But at the same time, as water ages and as that chlorine comes into contact with organic matter in the water column over time, the probability of disinfection byproducts forming increases. Generally the city has been in fairly good shape with respect to that because our turnover is relatively quick. In ways that you can prevent that is through annual flushing or multiple flushing programs to kind of recycle and recirculate finished water so that it's not old. But it makes it more challenging for our, the extremities of our system. As you get to Montezuma, you can think how many more days old that water is. So one thing that we did was we started to flush, and that worked right away to come below the action level. The other thing that we're doing is we're installing a different type of disinfectant system at our upper pump station. And we chose the upper pump station because that is likely the highest probability of any organic matter coming into contact with free chlorine because we're drawing raw water out from the lake. So we're switching over to a chlorine dioxide system, which in multiple communities across upstate New York utilize for zebra mussel control. And they have seen very, very good results with respect to their disinfection byproducts. So even though we're within compliance, we want to do better, and this will allow us to do better to ensure that the City of Auburn residents are safe, and we're setting up our wholesale customers with a lower level to begin with so that they're able to be successful. Feel free to visit our website. Our 2023 annual drinking water quality report will be out onto our website within the next month or so. So what challenges do we face today and tomorrow? I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of the first three, and I've sat through many hour-long presentations on each individual one, so it's going to be kind of the Cliff's Notes version. I apologize for that. But other challenges that we have are disinfection byproducts, rate stabilization, staffing turnover. I think one thing that's interesting, I don't know if everybody understands this, is that our chief operator and a few other operators that we have at our water treatment plant hold the highest level certification that the state issues to operators. With that certification, our staff can be the chief operator of the New York City water treatment plant, Buffalo, City of Rochester. It's the same level certification. That can take up operators up to 10 years plus schooling to achieve. So turnover can be very, very difficult, and it's a challenge across the state and across the nation to have certified, trained staff, and we are in very good shape with respect to that, and we're always working on staff development to ensure that that does not become an issue for the City of Auburn. We're very thankful for our wholesale customers that we serve, all of our customers that we serve, and we're going to be working on some new wholesale standardized agreements over the next few years, so that will be an upcoming challenge working through those agreements. And then with potential for development around new industry. As you heard earlier, water is really going to be an economic driver, I think, over the next 30 years. And you can already see talks of micron development, so making sure that we're ready and we have capacity to meet those challenges. So I'm not going to try to enunciate this because every single time I do, I mess it up. But PFAS is an emerging contaminant that, again, I believe that the City of Auburn with Owasco Lake is in fairly good shape. With PFAS is in a lot of different things, and the regulatory community is still trying to get their minds wrapped around exactly how this is going to roll out. But I don't know if you guys have ever gone to McDonald's. I have a few times. I try not to. It's not healthy for you. But the wrappers that they wrap your burger in is a very slippery type of surface. That's a PFAS, could potentially have PFAS in it. I'm not sure if they still do, but the wrappers of the day used to have that PFAS lining. It's in, some nonstick coatings, firefighting foam, a lot of Army bases. Because we throw all of our stuff into landfills, landfill leachate can be high in PFAS. And wastewater treatment plants, because of all the different collection systems and depending on the industries within those collection systems, can have concentrated levels of PFAS. So again, we've tested for PFAS in Owasco Lake for our drinking water supply, and thus far it's been non-detect. And I think a lot of that can be attributed to just the way that we were set up. The lake was never connected directly to the Erie Canal system, thus never industrialized in a way that allowed companies to build out on our lakes and within our watershed. like potentially some of the lakes to our west, Cayuga or Seneca Lake. The link here, I encourage you guys to check it out. It's kind of neat. It's a nationwide interactive map that allows you to zoom in on potential PFAS contamination sites. And if you zoom into our area, one of the spots that will show up is the Seneca Army Depot on Seneca Lake. So that's a potential contamination site, just for reference. I'm not going to go into the whole history on microcystin and harmful algal blooms. Many of you have heard a lot about this over the last 8 years or so. But what I will do is provide you with a little insight on what we've done in just the last year. So this chart shows the kind of an alarming increase to the total microcystin concentrations that the city was experiencing in our raw water. And from 2020 to 2022, we saw this, exponential-like looking graph. This past year, we were very thankful and very happy to not have that continue on that trend. But we didn't know that in the spring, so the city council provided our group with some funding to do some studies, and I'll give you a couple takeaways from that. The first phase, we looked at our carbon that we're using to absorb soluble microcystin. And we tested multiple different carbons from all over the country that are available on the market. And we found that the carbon we've used in the past and we're going to continue to use was the best at absorbing soluble microcystin. So that was good news. The next phase was a little bit more tricky. We were trying to understand what the limitations were of our carbon system and develop operational curves around how do we best target and treat for microcystin at variable concentrations. Well, first, there's really no good way to real-time understand the level of microcystin in the water. There's no meter that tells us that. But the big takeaway from that, and I'm not trying to tell you that it's safe to go play in the water that's green along the shoreline, but microcystin is really found in two forms. One is within the form of a live, healthy cyanobacteria cell, and one is in the soluble state that happens when that cyanobacteria cell dies. The good news is when it's in the live cell, microcystin was within the cyanobacteria cell itself, our conventional treatment plant process and filters are able to capture that microcystin on a live cell. And generally what we find in the lake, if we were to go grab a scoop of pea soup, it might be 1,000 micrograms per liter of total microcystin, but it's generally a healthy bloom, and 95% of that microcystin is bound within the live cell, which can be treated conventionally at our treatment plant. So that's excellent news. And it's interesting. So we need to do a little bit more study, because what we're also finding, even at these lower concentrations, not 1,000 they're high concentrations, but not like a shoreline bloom high, is that relationship between what's within the healthy cell and what is soluble, which is more difficult for our conventional process to do. We don't really completely understand that relationship yet. But what I do know is if the 20 or the 18 micrograms per liter was all soluble, the powder activated carbon, even at the highest dosing levels, it would be very, very difficult for that carbon to get the drinking water quality standard of 0.3 micrograms per liter through just that treatment process alone. So we're going to do a little bit more over the next year. We've discussed this with the State Department of Health to look a little bit deeper into the various redundancies that we have at our treatment plant. It's pretty clear that we're not solely relying on the powder activated carbon system to do all of the removals of the total microcystin. and that our conventional process is still doing a good job in removing those live cells, and even some of the soluble, I'm sure. Another program that we're working on right now is a lead service line program. The US EPA put out guidance, and the State Department of Health has also adopted this guidance where every community has to develop a full lead service line inventory. And again, the city of Auburn is in very good shape here. For some reason, our forefathers, when they were developing design standards and we were building out our system, we went from installation of galvanized lines right over to installation of copper lines. Cities of Buffalo, Chicago, for years they installed full lead service lines. And it may have had something to do with material availability and costs. But I have some folks in the distribution system who have been working in Auburn for over 30 years, and in their entire career, they've only found one full lead service line. And not one of our records in our old service tap cards indicate that lead service lines were installed. I'll temper that with the fact that as you run a galvanized line through the ground, that material is rigid. So as it gets close to the service main, our crews in the past, did use a small lead whip to make that final malleable connection to the main. The US EPA and Department of Health don't characterize that small section of lead service to create a full lead service line. So it's likely that the city of Auburn will have very few lead services. We certainly work to upgrade our system, and during road programs, we are replacing those old galvanized lines and subsequently getting rid of even that small lead whip. But generally, we're in very good shape. We've got about 7,000 of our 8,800 services completed at this point. And we just received a grant for almost $1 million to further analyze and do field investigation. We have very good records of our own municipal right-of-way services, but the service from the edge of the right-of-way into the house, we don't have as good of records. So we're going to be working on building that out, getting it into a GIS-based solution that allows the public to access for their home any bit of records that we have on our service lines. Some current projects and initiatives. I mentioned the chlorine dioxide generator that just arrived this week, actually, and we're going to spend the next month or so getting prepped and ready to switch over our zebra mussel control system with that technology. City Council is approved, and we're well underway with renovating our early 1900s slow sand filtration plant, turning it into a modern-day water treatment facility. Over the last 100+ years, this building has seen very little reinvestment, and over the next few months, we will be getting close, and maybe you guys could all come out for our ribbon cutting ceremony this spring or summer. It's a really, really cool facility, and it has served us well, and we're looking forward to it to continue to serve us well into the future. As part of that pot of money, we're looking to allocate some funds towards replacing the media within our rapid sand filter beds and doing structural assessment of the concrete around them. We're going to continue to support watershed improvements. It's a very important concept for the city of Auburn, and certainly important for the residents and all who drink the water. We're still waiting on finalizing the drinking water source protection plan. We actively participate on the 9-element planning committee. And our council in the city is going to continue to support the new watershed rules and regulations as written by the local steering committee, and continue to fund the management council. We did a quick analysis of the total expenses that the city of Syracuse has for their water system versus how much they contribute to their watershed program on Skinny Atlas Lake and found that it was about 8% of their total budget. And when you do that analysis with the city of Auburn, even though we also have modern treatment plant facility, we're contributing that same percentage from a dollar-to-dollar standpoint. So we're very active in trying to fund and participate in our watershed. Some future projects, we just received notification from DEC that we were successful in obtaining a non-point non-ag grant to study the Owasco Lake Huck 12 sub-watershed. And the reason we chose the Owasco Lake Huck 12 is the amount of phosphorus per acre was the highest contributing sub-watershed within the entire Owasco Lake watershed. And we're going to look at potential of siting stream gauge stations maybe at Van Ness and Sucker Brook to better understand loading into the lake of different nutrients. And then really focus in on comprehensive stream corridor assessment of Sucker and Van Ness Brook, as well as maybe pick a few of the tributaries along the way in coordination with Soil and Water Conservation District, and develop a report that will allow us to hopefully be much more competitive on implementation projects into the future. You know, microcystin isn't the only issue that we have to worry about potentially into the future, and intake extension has been something that we've discussed, and we're going to continue to look at that. A second source has been brought up. I think it's been talked about for years, and certainly not a bad idea when you're just thinking about resiliency and redundancy. So what can you do to help? I'll just wrap this up here quick. I think I'm over my time allotment. Everything, and you've heard this before, everything we do in our environment, no matter where we are, has an impact on water quality, and we're all in a watershed. For the lake watershed, if we can stay in compliance with state requirements around our septic system, that would be great. And a couple of primary focus items I think are important. One is to save our waterway buffers or installation of buffers along our waterway. We can't control temperature, and temperature's on the rise, but if we can build shade and natural habitat around our stream corridors, this will help to mitigate some of that, as well as assist with nutrient uptake right near our waterways. And then don't over-fertilize. Don't fertilize if you don't have to. You know, weeds are all in the eye of the beholder. My lawn is filled with dandelions. It's still a lawn. You know, anytime you're applying nutrients, anytime you're applying pesticides, make sure you do soil tests. Make sure what you're targeting for that plant is exactly what the nutrient is that you're giving it. So with that, I'll wrap it up. I really appreciate the time. Thank you guys very much.